Ho ho ho! Ho ho ho! Ho ho ho! Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Angry Cast and Fallout Shelter 2021. We have got an extra long episode for you today because you have decided one way or the other what I'm going to be talking about based on the last episode. Hopefully. I hope I get that much engagement that we can do that. I'm either going to be talking about one subject of a movie that we talked about last time, or I'm going to just be commenting on what we're doing here and picking up something else to talk about. It is Christmas, so that's where the theme's going to be. But we've got a couple of things that we're going to do during this time, which is why I'm going to let it go as long as I am. We collected 1600 power, which was for caps. We've got to perform 15 critical hits. We're going to get rid of that when we can. And then collect 50 stim packs for another Mr. Handy. Again, have I not proven already that you don't have to spend that money? So there you go. But let's get through a couple of things first before I turn it over to the other guy. We have got, like I said, we got these things to do. We have got the mortal rut. Oh, we missed the mysterious stranger. No big whoop. We've got to collect 50 stim packs, of which we've collected 8. I will also do the merging of rooms together, and I'll continue to do. Without dialogue, my own current dialogue, as far as that, to we'll keep going through these objectives as we get them, so that we can do that. But yeah, there you have it. Let's take it away, other guy. Whenever you're ready. Ho ho ho! So, you've chosen Die Hard. Well, that's awesome, because I can tell you what, there's a lot I could talk about over the course of hours concerning the movie. I wasn't sure exactly which way it was going to go, so I recorded this separately, as well as another track separately that was me while I was editing, just in case. So, I appreciate you wanting to have that discussion, because this is a great topic. It's a Christmas movie. In fact, I just put up a meme on social media, jokingly, was the 3-panel of Vince McMahon from WWE, where it's the first picture is him making a face, and then the second picture is a more exaggerated O face, and then the third one is like him going completely crazy. And it was Die Hard is a Christmas movie is the first panel, Lethal Weapon is a Christmas movie is the second panel, and Rocky IV is a Christmas movie is the third panel, which you could make the argument, and I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole of, is Die Hard a Christmas movie, or is Die Hard a movie that happens at Christmas? I am saying it's up to the interpreter. It's up to the viewer. For me, it's a movie that, yes, it does take place at Christmas, but it is a Christmas movie because of the circumstances that are therein on the movie. Yeah, we have, and believe me, and here's the thing, if you've never seen Die Hard, I want you to stop the video right now. I want you to go watch the movie, not on TV, but like in broadcast TV. I want you to go and rent it from wherever you get it from, stream it, however you want to see it. You have to see it, the original movie in its format, because you can't get around this. You need to have the full effect of John McClane yelling his signature catchphrase, not not edited down. So let's start. Let's start here. Die Hard is a movie that came out in 1987. It was directed by John McTiernan, and it starred Bruce Willis as John McClane, the late great Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber, Bonnie Bedelia as Holly Gennaro McClane, or Holly McClane Gennaro, however you want to say it, Holly Gennaro, Reginald Vell Johnson as Al Powell, Detective Al Powell, a cast of well-known 80s actors in various positions throughout the movie as the good guys and bad guys. William Atherton from Ghostbusters fame as Dick Thornburg, and the late great guy, I can't think of his name. Shoot, killing me. But he was the principal in Principal Bender, or Principal. Oh God, it's gonna destroy me. Principal in Breakfast Club. He was the one of the main, secondary or tertiary antagonists in Trading Places, Beaks. He, God, it's gonna kill me. I'll put it in later, but he is the detective chief or assistant, whatever, chief of police, Dwayne John, whatever, and then Robert Davi from Goonies as Special Agent Johnson of the FBI. You know, don't need to know about any of that. Just go watch the movie if you haven't, and stop it now. If you're still listening or you've gone and watched the movie, good for you. The main plot of the movie has become such a canned plot or thematic for an action movie that it was duplicated many times over, even on itself. They call it Die Hard in a whatever. Die Hard on a plane, Die Hard on a boat, Die Hard on a train, Die Hard in the civic arena, Die Hard at a hockey game. Basically, the idea is John McClane is a New York cop who's estranged from his wife. He goes to visit her at Christmas in L.A., where she has a job as a high-ranking executive in a corporate, the Nakatomi Corporation, which is like a Japanese financial trading firm, whatever. It's set in L.A., in Century City. It's a very well-known building, the Fox Building. If you've ever played Grand Theft Auto, it's one of the buildings you can rent an apartment in. It's got the big circular patio in the back. I think it was the 20th Century Fox Building at one point, or the Fox Building. But they call it the Nakatomi Building. And he goes to this Christmas party for his estranged wife with her company. He gets invited. He shows up. He is jet lagged, so he's taking a break and getting cleaned up. He's got like no shoes or socks on, trying to rid himself of jet lag and get cleaned up. Wearing like just a wife beater, if you will, like a tank top. And while those scenes are happening and the Christmassy stuff, all that stuff's happening, in comes terrorists to take over the building, to basically steal money out of a vault. And they round up all the party goers, but he manages to slip by them and escape, and then he just becomes a thorn in the side of the terrorists for the rest of the movie, taking them out. He gets involved with the guys down on the street, a cop that he talks back and forth on a walkie-talkie, and he tries to save everybody. Some don't make it, but it's like it becomes this entire struggle of one man, an everyman against high-powered terrorists with enough resources to totally take him out, and he just destroys them. And he makes up with his wife at the end. That's basically the long and the short of it. Why it's such a great movie, beyond the fact that it's a Christmas movie, is that it exists at a time in the 80s where the formula was like perfected. Now, this is a movie that should not have been as good as it was. There is a great series on Netflix called The Movies That Made Us, and they did an entire thing on Die Hard. Die Hard itself was based on a script, I think it was called The Detective. A book by Roderick Thorpe. It was wrote in the 70s or whatever. The initial idea to have Die Hard, this movie, was to have it be a vehicle for a now, probably in his 50s, 60s, Frank Sinatra. Now, for those of you who know the movie very well but don't know a lot of the backstory on how the movie was made, imagine Die Hard that you know and love with Frank Sinatra as John McClane. It was an entirely different movie. Now, the movie itself, or the book itself, it doesn't have a lot that was in the movie that we know. It was adapted. Now, if you know how books to movies end up, a perfect example is Stephen King, writing under the name of Richard Bachman. The book was, or it was like a novella, was The Running Man, that became the movie that Arnold Schwarzenegger was in. Those two, the book and the movie really have not a lot of except for a couple of characters and the basic plot point. Everything else is pure, Schwarzenegger, over the top, stuff like that. Die Hard's the same way. Die Hard gets this over the top, just tremendous, action-packed movie, directed by the guy that directed a lot of great movies in the late 80s, but then he kind of fell out of favor because he maybe did some things he shouldn't have done. John McTiernan did I think, Hunt for Red October, another great film. Another really, really great film. But Die Hard itself, just to give you the idea, I grew up in the 80s. I was born in 75, so I'm now 46, and I was 15 at the time. Well, no. Was I? No, I was 12 at the time. 12. Sorry, I was 12 at the time. 87. So I wasn't even old enough to go see Die Hard in the theater. The little backstory there, my buddy and I at the time, we were spending our summer at his grandparents' house swimming like every chance we could get. They lived across town. We would, get a ride over, or we'd ride our bikes over, whatever. And they were never around. They were like in, vacationing, and we would go and swim. And we said, we need to go to the movies. So we went to the movie theater. This was like July. This was like summer, midsummer, and we're putting out a Christmas movie? Midsummer, 87, and we went. And at this time in America, 1987, you could walk in as a 12-year-old and go see an R-rated movie, and pretty much nobody cared. The only time I ever got carded at a movie theater was 3 years later. Maybe 3 years later, I went to Myrtle Beach with the same guy and his family, and it was a day it was raining. We had nothing to do, so we went to the mall in Myrtle Beach and went to see. We were going to go see RoboCop 2, and they carded us and wouldn't let us go see it. So we went and saw Gremlins 2. Gremlins 2, still a great movie in my book, but that's just me. Neither here nor there. That's another topic for another day. Anyways, Die Hard, we were able to go see it 3 years earlier in rural southwestern PA. They didn't care, and we were just amazed at the film. I mean, it was just crazy. But it came at a time, like I said, that the formula for an 80s movie, an action movie, was perfected with Die Hard. It starts out, it's got, you've seen the shot a million times. Bad Boys did it. Other films have done it. It's the opening shot of the airport in GTA, the LA airport, LAX, the plane just coming in with the little bit of a vapor, illusion on the screen, and the plane landing. It's during sunset. It's a very well-known, established trick and tool of any filmmaker from that time. But it's just boom, spot on, perfect. The plane lands, and John McClane is sitting next to a guy on a flight, and he's got his bare knuckling it, like white knuckling it on the armrest, and the guy's like, first time flying. This is a business guy. He's like, yeah, I've been doing this for 10 years or whatever. Trick is to, when you get to where you're going, take your shoes and your socks off and walk around on the carpet barefoot and make fists with your toes. And he's like, fists with your toes. He's like, yeah. And then he sees him reaching something out of the overhead compartment, and he sees his gun holstered under his jacket. He's like, don't worry, I'm a cop. I've been doing it for, longer. So it's a basic fish out of water. He comes into the airport and he just sees people like girls in very tight whatever clothing running down and bear hugging and off the ground hugging their significant other, and he's just like LA, F in LA, or F in California. And it's just, he's a New York cop that's, whatever you want to call it, jabroni or whatever you want to say like that, a cop from New York, and he's in LA. Nuts and fruits, if you want to call it, the craziness, the granola crunchy, whatever, LA in the 80s that people always talked about. And then he goes to the party, and I don't know what it was about the 80s, but they had this distinct love affair with shooting or framing scenes where there was light being diffused through blinds, Venetian blinds. They had just the lines going across the screen with the sunlight coming through it. But there's a very well-known shot where he is, after the terrorists make themselves aware, he's peeking through an almost closed door with his gun up to his face, and it's like that's the picture you would see in the TV guide when you were growing up, on the HBO guide of him, when Die Hard's coming on 4:15 times a day throughout the month of July. And it would just be him standing there with his gun like that, and there would just be these shadows and light streaming off in every direction from him in this Venetian blind. And it just, for some reason, that was such a perfect shot. People, they loved to do in the 80s. The body double was another one. There's a lot of times you'd see that there was a lot of diffused through blinds, setup of smoking shots types of things. And I mean, this was a time where you had people like Rambo and Rocky and Predator and Commando and Schwarzenegger and Stallone and all these big, huge, hulking, muscular guys that are just like, I'll be back, and I'm your worst nightmare, that kind of thing. Just the really bad one-liners that we all know and love still, and just muscle-bound everything. Nobody can beat them. And we had never seen a movie where the good guy is vulnerable. That's a human being, an everyman. And John McClane really just embodies that, run-of-the-mill guy who is just had enough of having a bad day and pissed off and just the one line, not even the one-liners. He ad-libbed everything he mostly did in that movie. A lot of the stuff was ad-libbed, except for like a lot of the dialogue. But like when he's in a fight scene and he's making like comments left and right, like, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna cook you, I'm gonna eat you, all that stuff, and he's like beating the guy to a pulp. That's like him ad-libbing. That's not in the script. It's just like, this is the kind of guy you would be in a fight. Like, you would just be rattling off stupid shit just to be like, patting the guy on the head and just making comments like, I'm going to beat you till your clothes are out of style or whatever. Just that kind of stuff. Just pure adrenaline and just machismo. Without being too toxic, And, but at the same time, he was very vulnerable. He cries in the movie. He cries at certain scenes, in certain scenes. He's hurt. He is beat up. He is bloody. He limps in the last scenes of the movie because he's so beat up. Because at one point, they corner him and they realize he doesn't have any shoes on, and they he tells the one guy in German, shoot the glass, and then they just destroy all the glass, and he has to try to get to an exit to get off the floor, to get away from them from being shot, and he has to run across an entire floor of just broken glass. And you see him drag himself into this bathroom, blood everywhere, trying to pick the glass out of his feet, and he's just so beat up and so destroyed, and he just has to keep going, because that's what he has to do. That's all it is, and he just finds it in him to just keep doing, which is funny, because it's sort of unrealistic in that he was limping around there and really hard to walk at that point, but yet 10 minutes later, and 10-minute movie time, maybe like, who knows, a couple hours later, he is engaged in a huge fight with the secondary antagonist, the main henchman, that guy. Like Odd Job and the James Bond movies, the secondary, there's the main bad guy, and then there's the guy behind him. And it's played wonderfully by Alexander Goodenough, the late great Alexander Goodenough, who was a ballet dancer, and was also in Money Pit, if you've ever seen Money Pit, which I'm living, of course, but and there's just them. It's like one guy who's out for revenge because McClane killed his brother throughout the movie, and then now it's just like this main fight between the two of them, and McClane's getting around pretty good on his feet and running and doing stuff at that point, and he's running a lot there, but then he comes in, and it may be just adrenaline, who knows, but by the end he's limping and everything. And you have one of the best villains ever. The only person to be a better villain than the late great Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber is Alan Rickman, like 3 years later, as the Sheriff of Nottingham in the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves movie. Only Alan Rickman could top himself. Now, don't get me wrong. I loved some of the villains in Game of Thrones. Ramsay Bolton. I hated the heck out of him. He was such a great villain. But Hans Gruber is one of the top villains of all time, up there in the pantheon of Mount Rushmore of villains. Next to Darth Vader, there is Hans Gruber. That's all there is to it. I am taking no questions at this time on that matter. I will fight that tooth and nail that Hans Gruber and Darth Vader are two of the four greatest villains on Mount Rushmore. And don't give me any Thanos crap. Thanos is not on Mount Rushmore. I'm sorry, he's not. Again, not taking any questions. Anyways, so now I've given you basically everything about Die Hard. Now, the fact that it's a Christmas movie, there's Christmas music in the movie. The main theme throughout the entire film is the Ode to Joy, Beethoven's, Ode to Joy. I think the Ninth Symphony. I could be wrong. And it's like, that whole thing. And it's throughout the entire thing. But there's also like jingle bells, and they use it and they rearrange it and have it like be Christmassy. And then you have Let It Snow as the end song when they're at the end of the movie. It's just that great of a movie. There's a talk about Christmas. There's talk about, hey, are you going to stay with us for Christmas? We brought presents for Christmas. It's Christmas Eve. They play Christmas in Hollis from Run DMC. I mean, come on, it's a Christmas movie. It cannot be anything but a Christmas movie. But it was released in July of '87, and it's just one of the greatest action movies there was. And it spawned, one great sequel, and then an okay sequel, and then kind of two shitty sequels to the point where it's like, it's not, no. John McClane needs to hang it up. And Bruce Willis being whoever he is after the fact, him being cast in this role, the studio didn't want him. Nobody wanted him in this role. They wanted Frank Sinatra, but they got Bruce Willis, and there was no other person who could play John McClane. In fact, they better never ever reboot Die Hard and make it again, because I will be, that would be like destroyed in that whole entire thing. Now, the idea itself that something like this could happen is pretty absurd. There's not a lot of, plausibility to this. One, they could have all just came at him at one time and killed them real quickly. He would have been taken out along. There's no way that a John McClane character would have survived the way he did, depicted in the film. There could have been other ways, but no. Other than that, you don't have a lot of gripes about the movie as far as is it good or not. The dialogue is somewhat hokey in some places, but other times it's just phenomenal. I mean, Yippee-ki-yay is the greatest one-liner next to, I'm your father, or, I make him an offer he couldn't refuse, or we're going to need a bigger boat. That stuff like that. It's up in there. It's up in the top 10, at least. And like I said, nobody could beat Hans Gruber, but the Sheriff of Nottingham. Alan Rickman just oozes this great character, playing Hans Gruber, this like a German terrorist. And that was how I was introduced to Alan Rickman. I didn't grow up with him as Professor Snape. Totally different character and look to each other. I grew up on him being Hans Gruber in The January Man, another great film, by the way, with Kevin Kline and him, a detective's murder cop story, and then him as the Sheriff of Nottingham, and then of course Love Actually, Marvin the Paranoid Android, and of course Professor Snape. But he in Dogma. Oh my God, Metatron, Dogma, one of my favorite movies with him in it. Those are some quintessential Alan Rickman films. And then Bruce Willis, I grew up with him as David Adler, or David Addles, or whatever. I forget the character's name at this point, but moonlighting him and Sybil Shepherd. That was how I knew who he was. And then they had that weird persona of Bruno Radellini, him doing his harmonica singing thing. And then of course Hudson Hawk, which is a horribly bad, great bad movie. With him in it. But those two. Reginald Vell-Johnson, that was pretty much his beginning, and he played a cop pretty much the rest of his career because he was on Family Matters, and he was on Perfect Strangers, I believe, and I don't know if those were a spin-off of each other, but I think they were. But yeah, he great. Bonnie Bedelia really kind of didn't do a lot. She did a few films, but that was pretty much her main claim to fame. I think she did another one where she was somebody's wife in the movie, and that sounds horrible to say it like that, but I don't know her career as well as I know other ones. And Alex, I think his name's Alex DeForest. He was Argyle, the limo driver who spends most of the time down in the in the parking garage stuck because he got trapped in there and nobody ever found him until the end, where he kind of like becomes a hero in his own right. He was on Head of the Class when I was growing up. They've remade Head of the Class, I think, today, so that brings it full circle there. But I could go on for hours. I'm not going to, because we're almost at 23 minutes to be talking about Die Hard. The sequel, Die Harder, Die Hard 2, Die Harder, also a Christmas movie, happens at Christmas. It has a lot more built-in action pieces to it than it is a story about Christmas. I saw it in the movie theater, directed by Rennie Harlan. It was really good. It was great. I mean, it was like so much. I mean, like, Die Hard was a 7 as far as action. Die Harder was a 10, but you could tell that they jumped the shark a little bit at that point, because you're throwing, like, they even make self references like, oh yeah, John McClane, Nakatomi Plaza, what are you doing here? You're like, oh yeah, he's, why does the same thing keep happening to the same guy? You're like, why does this keep happening to this? How are we back to this point with Harris? Why am I the only person that can handle this thing? It kind of like, okay, what are we doing here? But then you had Sudden Death with Jean-Claude Van Damme. You had Under Siege with Steven Seagal. You had, Snakes on a Plane. I mean, if you want to say Die Hard on a Plane. Executive Decision, I think it was Die Hard on a Plane. Air Force One, Die Hard on a Plane. All these movies where it's one guy against an insurmountable odds of terrorists that are just there for one reason. That's basically the formula that was perfected with, and there's a reason why, because it was so good. And it did bang up at the box office. I mean, it turned Bruce Willis into an action star against characters like Rambo and the Predator, or, well, not Predator, Dutch, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like Commando and that stuff. It put him up there when they did The Expendables. Bruce Willis was in it. I mean, come on. That's how you've reached that echelon of action hero type thing. And he did it a few times. I mean, Fifth Element. I mean, these are all, he put himself there. He's done drama. I mean, come on, we all remember The Sixth Sense. He does drama very well. Looper. I mean, all these types of films. He's very good at those films. And that's kind of like, that's kind of like why I like the 80s so much, because of those types of films. But Die Hard, excellent movie, Christmas movie, top 10 favorite action movies. I just watched it a couple of weeks ago for, this viewing season of Christmas. I may watch it one more time before Christmas. I don't know. Well, if I have time, I will do it, because I love it that much. But that's it for that. I'm going to turn it back over to to the other guy to close out the video. So we'll talk to you. Okay, we're back to live, and you can see we're at the clinic. We got about 2 minutes and 50 seconds for that to load, because we still have to get about 32 sim packs to get that Mr. Handy. But we will do that by next time. We'll have it happen. Mr. Bruce Stewart still out there. He's South Savage Dog. Oh yeah, okay, great. He's still got 10 stim packs, so he's good out there. We'll let him go for a while. I'm sort of flailing around because the audio on this portion cut out. But let's go ahead and open up our dog crate. I'm recording this separately again, and we got a Goliath as a 28% decrease in crafting cost, which is nice. We'll use that for when... Oh, geez, here comes a feral ghoul attack. We will use Mr. Goliath. He's such a good boy. We got 20... Oh, yeah, we got 16 and a 28%, so he was a legendary one. Oh, geez, we didn't get any... I don't know if we're going to get any before the year is up. These guys should have no trouble. But I don't know that we're going to get any Christmas outfits. That sucks. That really does suck. Yes, thank you to you, too. It's wonderful. Excellent. I think that's all we're going to do for now. I'm still just tidying up things, and we will go from there. I think we're going to call it here, because we are at the 28, almost the 29-minute mark. But for now, I hope you all have a wonderful and safe and happy New Year. Merry Christmas to y'all. I know this is probably going to be in January before you see this. Actually, no, this will be New Year's Eve, so you get to watch the ball dropped. Let's hope 2022 doesn't become 2022. And we'll go from there. So y'all have a great day out there. We'll talk to you later. Next time we'll do some more stuff along and getting these done, and we'll go from there. So from all of us here at the AngryCast, I want to thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Ho, ho, ho.